Merkel Media.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Well, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rockfin, Rumble, Band.video, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks so much. We appreciate the support. We couldn't do it without you. If you want to connect with the show, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions and on Instagram at Macroaggressions_podcast, I think. Thank you to our sponsors. Can't do it without you. Chemical Free Body is getting me ready for Narcapulco. I went out and I bought the detox bundle because I have 90 days, or I had 90 days to get started on that before Narcapulco. And I said, well, 90-day program, 90 days till Narcapulco, let's do it. So I bought it, and I'll let you know how it goes. I've done it before. It was drastic. The weight loss was drastic. I was not trying to lose weight. It just got all the stuff out of me. It's the toxin detox, gut detox, ultra enzymes, probiotics. Those are all capsules. And then Green 85. Mix it up in the morning, drink it, you're done. It's 5 minutes, tops. I had tremendous results. You may have the same. If you're interested, you can go to chemicalfreebody.com and use the promo code MACRO when you buy the detox bundle. Or if you want to get Pat Militich's Super Soldier formula, they've got that over there. Or just Green 85, just the regular old Green 85. If you've seen commercials for athletic greens, you know, it's like that. It's green powder. You mix it up with water and you drink it in the morning, and that's it. It's really about the easiest thing in the world you can do. It's just a matter of, are you ready to do it? Is this the year? Are you ready to get yourself healthy? You should get detoxed. You should probably do that. You change the oil in your car, right? You should change the oil inside of you. You should clean yourself out when you can. ChemicalFreeBody.com is the place to go. Just go shop. Just go take a look. See what you find. Put stuff in your shopping cart and, you know, think about it. Maybe decide later. But if you find something that you do like, the promo code MACRO will save you some money. Also, thanks to the people over at Legal Shield that have been doing this for half a century in the United States and Canada and doing it very well. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They get you access to high-powered attorneys in your area in case you need them for a very reasonable amount. It's $30 a month. It's $1 a day to have access to an attorney. I mean, boy, just let your mind drift into the things you could use your attorney for. You got a parking ticket, you got a speeding ticket, you got a red light camera ticket. Just send all that stuff over to your attorney, you know, right after you get them to do your last will and testament, your financial power of attorney, your medical directives. You don't want to get stuck in a hospital like the COVID people did, and the hospitals didn't know what to do. So you've got to get these things done. Nobody wants to spend the money on it. It's just, you know, you're thinking about your own mortality, getting talking about your will. Oh, I mean, it's heavy duty stuff. But if you're going to be an adult, especially if you've got kids or family members or things to protect, then you got to get it done. And if you don't want to spend a couple grand on an attorney, consider Legal Shield. Go to our website, don'tgetpushedaround.com, and see what you think. You can add on sort of a la carte items to your subscription. If you're interested, you can add on ID Shield. If you run a small business, they have options for that. If you carry a gun, they have paperwork for that. If you need pre-trial hours, you can sign up for that. If you're getting ready to go to court for something, you have options. You would be surprised how many options you have. Go to don'tgetpushedaround.com and see for yourself. Also, see you in Mexico, hopefully, February 11th through the 16th, 2024. Acapulco, Mexico is the 10th annual Anarchapulco, and it's going to be fantastic. The list is now available at anarchapulco.com. That link is in the description. If you find something that you like, if you want to go, you get tickets, you want to do the ayahuasca ceremonies, you want to come out and do the VIP dinners and go see everybody, it's all there. Promo code MACRO saves you money on that. I would love to see you. This is my invitation to the entire audience. Party in Mexico in February. We're watching the Super Bowl Sunday night, and then we're rolling into Monday, ready to get into our anarchy and crypto and homesteading and health and wellness, and all the doctors will be there, and it's going to be a good time. Not to mention, you'll just meet people that you'll stay in touch with for a long, long time. And Acapulco's a fun place. I hope to see you there. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the state of the education system inside America, because that's where I am. I can't imagine the education system in other countries being any worse than America. I feel like, short of there not being any schools, which frankly might not be the worst thing, America's education system is a disaster. I mean, if you set out to break it, if your goal was the opposite of the stated goal, like we're going to educate if you just said, I want to confuse everybody, and I want certain people to get a good education, and I want the vast majority of other people to not know anything, you couldn't do it any better than the American schooling system. You just really could not. Everything about it is broken. From the way the buildings look, drab, boring, conformist. I mean, it feels like Soviet architecture, prison architecture. Let's be fair. Go to a high school cafeteria, go to a prison cafeteria. You've probably seen the memes, the comparison. Is there a difference? Not really. Why would there be? Because when the state is involved in providing you what you need, they will provide you the very bare minimum. Whether that is comfort inside your prison or whether that is comfort inside your elementary school. Doesn't matter to them. State schools. I stopped calling them public schools a while ago after David Rodriguez from the Gatto Institute said, you should call them government schools instead. And I said, you know what? You're right. I should call them government schools, because whenever you say government anything, it has a icky quality to it. It has a low quality feel to it. Government issued whatever, shoes. You go, oh, these are going to fall apart. Government issued education. Oh, this is going to prepare me for nothing. Government issued prison jumpsuit. Whatever it is, when the government issues it, it's in bulk. It doesn't fit. It's not designed to fit you. It's designed to fit just the average person. Have you seen the average person lately? It's not good. So they're grooming an entire generation of kids to be useless. And maybe that fits with the useless eater component that Henry Kissinger wants to bring about. I don't know. I think that when you understand the way the government feels about the taxpayers, right, people, it's not much of a stretch to think that they would feel the same way about children, right? When they're not trying to sexually assault them or traffic them from the southern border, they're thinking about how can we give them the bare minimum to call this an education, just smart enough to work the machines, as Carlin said. And you wind up in a situation that we have now. And this would always be a bad time for, it's always bad to have an education system that's falling apart. But it is especially bad timing now, because right when you're putting out a entire 20-year segment of kids that come out of high school and don't know how to tie their own shoes, that is coinciding with this push towards the digitization, robotization, mechanization, whatever it is you want to do to the workforce. It's getting to a point now where the humans are kind of optional. And of course, that's crazy and terrible and terrifying and technocratic. And I've seen Terminator, before. I know where this goes. It's not good, but can you blame them? I mean, if you're McDonald's, as an example, don't eat at McDonald's. It's poisonous food. But let's just say you're running McDonald's. You're in the big headquarters in Chicago, and you're looking at the numbers, and you're looking at all these entry-level people that you hire, minimum wage. This is not meant to be a long-lasting lifetime job. Maybe in California, now that Gavin Newsom screwed it all up and made the minimum wage there $20, either $20 or $22. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because at some point, the nerdy MBA guy who is a whiz on Excel spreadsheets is just going to look at this and go, we've crossed the threshold where it now makes more sense to just have robots flipping burgers than it does to have all these human beings, because they're charging, minimum wage is going up, and then we've got slip and fall accidents, and this guy didn't show up for his shift, and he said he missed the bus, and this is the third time, and this guy's I think he's high, he's at work, he's making fries, but and so like all these people, managing all these people, and I'm not talking about managing C-level executives either. I'm talking about managing people that actively do not want to be at work, and yet they're there because they have to, they need the money, maybe they need the job, maybe they need the job because the court is telling them they have to have a job, whatever the reason is. They have to work at McDonald's, as an example, but is their heart in it? Do you ever run across people that are like enthusiastic McDonald's employees? Not often, right? If you do, they're usually the manager, and if they're the manager, I mean, I don't know how you could be enthusiastic about managing McDonald's, but I guess if you're going to do your job, do it well. I could respect that. So, but this is a dead end job. I mean, the minimum wage, if you are working the fry machine at McDonald's, this is not meant to be a lifetime job. And it's being treated like people need to keep this, we need to pay a living wage. No, you don't. No, you don't need to pay a living wage at all. There should be no minimum wage. It should be whatever you're willing to work for. I mean, I don't like the idea of price controls. They're terrible. Well, get ready for them in California, because you're going to have minimum floor price controls put in for the workers there, the $20 an hour workers. And then then you can let economics do its thing. And we'll see what the combo meal is. Dollar menu? That dollar menu? Practice? We're talking about dollar menu? That's going away. I mean, the $5 menu maybe, but the dollar menu at McDonald's in California, it's going away. So and that's because we've got an education system that's broken. We've got a bunch of people that think that this is the end of the line for them to get this job at McDonald's. It's really not. We have so you have the lack of education on one end of the spectrum. People too dumb to even get hired at McDonald's. And then you have the other end of the education spectrum, which is the overeducation of a certain demographic of people. And of course, I'm talking about liberal white women. And they are going into these are people that have a vested interest in becoming teachers, not just, I'm not talking about university professors, but I'm talking about third grade teachers. That's what they want to be, which is fine. But in order to get that job, you need to be unusually educated to get the teaching job. More than 95% of American elementary, middle, and high school teachers have a bachelor's degree. Okay. 95%. So again, you have to finish high school and you have to finish college if you want to get a job as a teacher. A noble profession. I'm not trying to shit on teachers. We need teachers. It's not their fault that what they're being forced to teach is nonsense. It's not their fault that Common Core is a thing. We're going to get into that, of course. It's not their fault that the administration is a disaster. For the most part, a lot of people that go into teaching want to help kids. Usually. However, however, there is a segment of the population that wants to teach kids as well, but I think the term teach is maybe in air quotes. They want to indoctrinate kids. They want to recruit kids into their weird gang of pronouns and everybody's cake gender. So there's that going on as well. So it's a weird dichotomy of you've got a huge segment of the population that are at this point too dumb to work the machines. They're below Carlin's paradigm, right? They're not even working the machines. And then you've got the other group, the too educated for the job that they have crew that are causing big problems. Now, these teachers, they represent 6.7% of the total college educated workforce. So in other words, if we had 100 people, for every 100 kids that graduate from college, 6.7, let's round up and say 7%, close enough. 7 out of every 100 that graduate with these college degrees are going to go into teaching. Okay. That is 58% of high school teachers have not just college degrees, but graduate degrees. So what that means is that after you finish 4 years of high school, this is in America. So for those of you listening outside of America, after you finish 4 years of high school and you have 4 more years of college, you then need to get a graduate degree in order to be a teacher. 58% of high school teachers have them, right? That's another 2 years. Average earnings for high school teachers in 2010, $57,840. Okay. So a little under $5,000 a month. That number has gone down recently. That 57,840 now looks like 52,368. So we've dropped by $5,000 for teachers. This is not good. Teachers are needed. Good teachers are needed, I should say. That should go without saying. But that number, that 57,000 that's dropped down to 52,000, that's just teachers in general. That's adding them all up and dividing, right? That's sort of an easy calculation. There's 3 million teachers in America right now, right? That's like 1% of the population are teachers. And we need good teachers, but you have to make sure that you're in it for the right reasons, right? Because if you get into this for the money, you're going to be disappointed. If you get into this because you want to change the world, you're also going to be disappointed. You know, you have to figure out what it is, what your reasoning is. If you get into this because you have summer vacations off, you're going to be in teaching for 4 years and then you're going to leave. That's the stats. And I know people that are teachers. I knew people that were teachers and got disillusioned by it. I've told this story before, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating. I knew a teacher that had the parent-teacher conference day where there is no school, but there's conferences scheduled with all the parents in like 30-minute increments. And I think there were 24 people in her class and one parent showed up. Not one set of parents, one actual parent. The entire day sitting at her desk waiting for parents to come in. They never came in. Now that could be because they're at work, of course. And that's a reasonable thing to maybe suspect. But if you don't care about your kid's education, why should the teacher? You know, it's just kind of a way of looking at this. Young teachers earn much less than the established teacher. Remember, I said that number had dropped down to 52,000. Well, teachers that are in age ranges 25 to 34, they consider that to be young teachers. they earn on average $46,000. Okay, 46,310 to be precise. That's for elementary and middle school. High school teachers, a little bit more. They're at $57,000. But still, over the last couple of years, they've seen their pay go down 4.4%. So this is not a good sign. Theoretically, the teacher pay should be going up or at least staying the same just in a normal economy. Take into consideration the Bidenomics, the inflation that we're seeing, the true inflation, the shadow inflation that we don't see. And look, you need to have your income going up at the rate of inflation just to break even, theoretically. But if yours is going down by 4.4% while inflation is going up, you are going to find yourself caught in a trap. So that's where we are with a lot of the teachers, 3 million of them out there. And it's a great job depending on the circumstances, but not all schools are the same and not all states are the same. Let's get into the states now because we've got problems in Oregon. The State Board of Education says students do not need to show proficiency in reading or writing. They don't, the stuff you go to school to learn how to do reading and writing, how you're supposed to go there for like kindergarten through 8th grade and then 4 more years of high school, 13 years of school in order to be proficient in reading and writing. The State Board of Education says, no. We've come to a new idea. Instead, what we're going to do is that they don't need to show proficiency in reading and writing, essentially lowering the standards. Then they were nice enough to then scapegoat blacks and Hispanics as the reason. Nice. Awesome. Way to go. Holy shit. Really? But that's Oregon. And you would kind of expect it to be run backwards. And when you look at Portland and I've got ties to Oregon. It was a cool place until it wasn't. Now it's Thunderdome, And if you've got kids in school there, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know about your school district and school system. It's a disaster. Not, it back to Carlin because he was so great, but there's that bit during one of his legendary stand-up specials where he says, it started with a program that I think Nancy Reagan put called Head Start. Right? It was Head Start for kids. And then over like a decade or so, then it kind of changed and it became something else and they rebranded it. And it was called No Child Left Behind. And so he's like, Head Start? No Child Left Behind? What the fuck happened? And that's, what I mean? But that's, the insight that you can get from a brilliant coked up comedian that sees the world a certain way. Just, of course, yes, you started with a Head Start and now we're focusing on No Child Left Behind. What are you doing in the school district to be this backwards, right? It's all like, it's easier to do it right than it is to screw it up this badly. This feels like it's intentional. We'll get to that, of course. Washington State, the state of Washington, a group of progressive teachers trying to get the book To Kill a Mockingbird banned. Okay, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Every kid I knew had to read it, whether you wanted to or not. You had to read it in school, and they're trying to get this book banned. Why? Because it made you feel icky. I mean, these are progressive. Where are we progressing to? The book burning? Shall we get the lighter fluid for the books? I mean, this is craziness. But of course it's Washington, right? It's Washington. It's that whole West Coast that I came out of. California. Let's go to California. Gavin Newsom, our favorite psychopath, makes third bathrooms mandatory in all schools for the 0.7% of the population that identifies as trans. Talk about busy work. Talk about construction busy work. If I didn't know any better, I would think that this guy had mafia ties to the construction industry, because to put a third bathroom in all of the schools in California is going to be quite an endeavor. You better buy stock in Toto toilets or something like that. Royal Sloan, Regal Sloan, all the guys know what I'm talking about. The companies that make all the urinals that you have to look at, and you're like, I'd buy their stock. They're going to be booming in California as all of these forced gun to your head bathroom renovation projects are being made to happen. While they still have weird locker room policies too, with like, I don't know, you identify whichever bathroom you identify. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of something that is nonsensical. So when they're not busy with third bathrooms, they've got, this is just a daily occurrence. California teacher arrested for offering 16-year-old kid $140 for a blowjob. California teacher arrested for that. $140. You didn't say you want to get an A on your term paper? That would have been disgusting, right? To do that while you're soliciting a child for sex, you fucking scumbags, right? Spending per pupil is one of the highest of all the states in California, and their scores are near the bottom. What a surprise. 43rd out of 50 California. You get what you pay for. And you know who pays for California schools? Property owners through their property taxes. That's what goes to fund California schools. Spending per pupil is the highest, one of the highest, I should say, but the results don't match. If throwing money at schools was the solution, it would be easy. You would just print up more Federal Reserve notes and make your schools awesome. But that's not the case. That's not exactly how it works. The state of Illinois, let's talk about them. Grades 3 through 8, passing rates for grades. This is the entire state of Illinois. Okay, and I'm not even sure how many people are there, but you've got Chicago in there and you've got some major cities. So I don't know, 10 million people, 10 plus million people, whatever, it doesn't matter. Grades 3 through 8, passing rate for reading is only 35% of the kids could pass, were proficient in reading. 35%. When it got to math, 27%, that's an 8% difference. Not that you'd be able to figure it out because you only got 27% on your math test. You'd never figure this out. High school, basically the same. It's a little lower in the reading. 32% can read. That's 1 out of 3, essentially, and back to 27% in math. That's for high school in Illinois. But nothing comes close to the city of Chicago, located inside the state of Illinois, where 20% of the kids are proficient in reading. That's 1 out of 5. If you got a room with 5 kids in it, only one of them is going to know how to read. The others aren't going to. When I say proficient in reading, I don't mean the next William Shakespeare here. I'm talking about, can you read the book out loud to the class and not screw up the words and know what you're talking about? Can you do that? Because 4 out of 5 kids in Chicago cannot. So again, what are you going to do? You going to get a job at McDonald's? There are no jobs at McDonald's. Sorry, Gavin Newsom was asking for $20 an hour, so we replaced you with robots. So now what is your plan? You can't read. You can't do math. Do you have a plan? And of course, the teachers' unions in the state of Illinois just killed the school choice plan. Good job. Way to go. So now if you're one of the kids that can read in this and you're like, get me out of this school filled with dummies, I need to go someplace where we're not having to go over this chapter again and again and again because nobody in the class knows what they're talking about. You can't. You don't get the school choice. Nope. Wherever you live is where you're going to school. If you have a problem with that, if you want to get into some charter school, you want it, tough shit. The only option is private school for them or homeschooling. Homeschooling is an option. Not for everybody, but it is an option. Let's talk about New York City. Well, this is a place that already had problems. Okay. New York City was a mess. But then when you add on to that, 10,000, that's enough to, fill half the Madison Square Garden for a basketball game. 10,000 illegal immigrant children have flooded the New York City public school system. Again, I'm not talking about the state of New York. I'm talking about the city of New York, just the city. 10,000 new students. So you already had an overflowing problem. You already had too many kids in the class, and you had teachers that were underpaid, overworked, and didn't give a shit. You already had that. Now add 10,000 more students. Oh, and by the way, they don't speak English. And on average, there are 20 different languages being spoken in this new. So it's not as simple as just saying, well, we're going to need to get a lot more bilingual Spanish and English speakers, for teachers, let's just make that a requirement. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, for sure. You're definitely going to want to do that for all the kids from Mexico and Honduras and Venezuela that are coming up. But if you think it's limited to Spanish, you don't understand what's going on at the border. These are Africans as well. Okay. So are you from the part of Africa that speaks French? So you need French speaking. Are you from the part of Africa that speaks Afrikaans? Then you need that. Are you from the Middle East and you've come here? Who speaks Farsi? It's like, again, if you're hiring linguistics experts and paying them $175,000 a year because they're linguistics experts, that's one thing. You're hiring teachers and you expect teachers to just happen to know all these languages? This is unrealistic. That's what New York City's facing, Good luck. Good luck with that, New York City. I mean, really, I do mean it. Good luck. I hope that I have no sympathy for the adults in the situation, but the kids I do. I mean, I don't want the kids to be screwed up from this. I don't want them to be used as like pawns or, I don't want them to suffer. I want everybody to be doing well, but this is not a recipe for success. This is like, well, we're just going to do it this way and hope that everything is better. Well, how? How's adding 10,000 new people to an experiment that's already overflowing? How is that going to make it any better? By the way, where are you going to send their report cards to? They live at the police station on the floor. They're living in a tent in Central Park, or they're living in some hostel. Where is this report card going? Their parents? Do they have parents? Are they here with part of some smuggling operation? I mean, the whole thing is sad. It's the whole thing in New York is sad. The whole thing in New Jersey, though, kind of funny. New Jersey school district bans Halloween under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion because the festivities may offend some kids. Who's it offending? Okay, fine. Maybe the weird Jehovah's Witness kid that's not allowed to celebrate holidays or birthdays. Okay, maybe that kid is offended. But the rest, who's offended by Halloween? Just like, get the fuck out of here with this stuff, man. This is embarrassing. Let's talk about Baltimore. Baltimore is the canary in the coal mine. Okay, as Baltimore goes, so goes the rest of the country with regard to schooling. And it's bad. This is an example of a senior from a particular high school. They didn't give his name, but in this in this expose that they did, they found a kid who's a senior in high school, and he's kind of an average student. He's top half of his class. Okay, top half of his class, top half of his graduating class. Are you ready to see what qualifies as the top half of your graduating class? And I don't mean this in a Joe Biden, I finished in the top half of my law class. No, you didn't, you liar. No, this is what it takes. Get ready for these amazing benchmarks in Baltimore schooling requirements. This kid spent 4 years in a Baltimore public school. His GPA, okay, again, I feel like I want to explain this just for people that maybe don't know the American schooling system. A 4.0 GPA means that you have straight A's. You got all A's. 3.0 means you have B's. 2.0 means you have C's. 1.0 means you have D's. And then 0 is F, right? Anything under 1 is like you're above failing, but failing is just 0. So you're above 0, but you're below. If you're below 1, you're in trouble. Nobody's below 1. Oh, not this kid. This kid's GPA was 0.13. 0.13, not 1.3, which would make him a D student, not 1.3. .13 GPA. He only passed 3 classes in 4 years. He was late or absent 359 days in 4 years, and he is in the top of his graduating class. And he graduated. He fucking graduated. He's got himself a diploma from Baltimore Barbizon Beauty College, I guess. I don't know what is going on in Baltimore. There ain't no fancy book learning, I'll tell you that right now. When a .13, he passed 3 classes, which basically means that if you went your first semester freshman year and took 5 classes and passed 3 of your 5 classes, you could take the next 3.5 years off like this gentleman did and still graduate while doing who knows what, playing video games, I guess. 62% of Baltimore middle schoolers failed 1 or more courses. 62%, let's round, it's close enough, 2/3. 2 out of every 3 kids failed at least 1, if not multiple classes. That's middle schoolers. 52% of Baltimore elementary school. How are you failing classes in elementary school? Like, I'm pretty sure the criteria is rather low. 37% of kindergartners in Baltimore failed. Can we ask, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but can we ask the question, how do you fail kindergarten? Can we ask it? I wouldn't pile on and be a jerk about this, except that the Baltimore City Council and the Baltimore government system pretends like none of this is happening. Like, we're crazy for pointing it out to them. Like, we're somehow like, oh, you must be racist to be picking on the Baltimore school district. Like, what? No, I mean, I like numbers, and your numbers are jumping off the charts in the wrong way. I mean, when you have 37% of your kindergartners failing, what is happening? 41% of Baltimore high school students have a 1.0 GPA or lower. 4 out of every 10 kids is below. This is Mr. Butowski area. 0.0. But there's a solution. I'm here to tell you the great news. Baltimore School District has found a solution to this problem of all of these kids failing out of school and failing these classes at a record number. Would you like to know what the solution is to this problem of all the failing classes? It's very easy. Failing grades will now be called not completed. Problem solved. He didn't fail. He just hasn't completed it yet. There's now the new term is, quote, not completed. Problem solved. We fixed it. We fixed it, everybody. Congratulations. Please clap. Look, COVID offered these people cover for a couple of years, because everything was wonky, and you can hide the failure of a school system for a while, but the bill has now come due, and it's bad. And I want to read you some more statistics about the city of Baltimore. For those of you, Baltimore, Maryland, it's on the East Coast. It's south, it's Washington, D.C. area. It's Baltimore's got a professional football team. They're a real player. They got the Baltimore Orioles. They've got professional sports. That in my mind, that puts you in a category of, well, they're big enough to be the home of some professional sports. Therefore, there's got to be enough people and industry and money and homes and retail, and there's got to be enough going on there to justify that, right? So when you get to Baltimore, you go, well, what is it about the schools? And you start to look around, and there were this number is so staggering. It feels like it's wrong, but it's not, because I went and double checked my work. There are 23 schools in Baltimore that have 0 students proficient at math, not one, in the entire school. They couldn't find one person in 23 different Baltimore schools that was proficient in math. This is according to the state test results. And of the 23 schools, this is how it was broken down. 10 of them were high schools, 8 of them were elementary schools, 2 of them were middle schools, and 2 of them were like a hybrid elementary middle school together. But like roughly half of them were high schools. Not a single person. What are we doing for the grades 3rd grade through 8th grade, right? So we're talking about like elementary school, middle school, right? In Baltimore, would you like to guess how many of it? I'm not talking about specific schools, just in general, all of Baltimore. For 3rd to 8th graders, the number that was proficient in math was 7%, which means, I know it's math, which means that 93% were not proficient. They, of course, can't make that calculation because they're not proficient in math. That's my point, is that if I say 7% were proficient in math, how many were not? And if I phrase this question to 3rd through 8th graders in Baltimore, I'm not getting an answer. I'm not getting the correct answer. 93% of the kids in those schools are not proficient in math. What are we doing? So, and there's an interesting, I saw this number and it jumped out at me because 93% shows up somewhere else too. And I'm not trying to make any sort of comparison to this, except that it's just math and it's a comparison in and of itself. But in these schools, 93% of the students in the schools are minorities, which is kind of weird to say because that makes them the majority, technically. But these are non-white schools. That's a different way of saying it, right? That's what they mean to say, non-white, because we're so focused on color. We're so focused on color and race. But whatever. These are the numbers they give us, and so let's look at the numbers. So you've got 93% of the kids in school are non-white, and 93% of the kids in 3rd through 8th grade are not proficient in math. It doesn't mean that it's all of them, but we are talking about 93%. So even if it's 93% of 93%, you know what I mean? This is a problem. This is a problem. This is a cultural problem, and it's not getting any better. Only 15 of 141 schools met the goals in reading and math. 15 out of 141. I'm not going to ask those kids to figure out what percentage that is. If they told me it was about 10%, I'd give them credit. Now, you might think that the problem is, well, if only we got some money to these kids, these school districts. The problem is they've got bad facilities and there's no money. Maybe maybe the lights aren't turned on. They have old textbooks. No. I wish that were the case. Baltimore spends $15,564 per student. That is 4th in the country in terms of most spent, not least spent, the most spent. So again, they're spending the 4th most, and they've got 23 schools where nobody can do math. We're in trouble. If you're in Baltimore and you know how to count, you are in the minority. Let's talk about Common Core and this woke Marxist agenda that has infiltrated the schools too, because I think not so much in the Baltimore school. I'm not worried about the wokeness there. What I'm worried about there is I just think that everybody's checked out. The problem in the non-Baltimore schools is the curriculum. In part, it's part of the problem. I can't say it's the only problem. But Common Core is a disaster. If you want to read more about Common Core, grab my first book, The Octopus of Global Control. There's an entire chapter in there on Common Core. And the stuff that went on, the making of it, is so diabolical that you'd just assume I was making it up, but I wasn't. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it. Barack Obama came out and said, I want to reimagine the school system. Never a good idea, but whatever. He said, we're going to do a new curriculum. It's going to be called Common Core. It's being worked on by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in conjunction with Pearson Publishing, which Gates owns. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around to all these states and we're going to say, we've got this new program called Common Core. Would you like to, if you put it in your school district and you adopt it as your teaching criteria or curriculum, we will give you federal money, and not a little bit, but a lot. Like we'll give you $50 million or whatever it is. It varied place to place. So it was, if you want this new idea, this new concept, this new curriculum, we'll give it to you. And we'll pay you to take it, basically. And the school said, this sounds great. I mean, okay, what are we talking about? Show me what you got. You want to give me $50 million? Okay, I like that idea, but why do you have to give me $50 million? You know what I mean? Like, if it's so great, shouldn't I be giving you whatever? But show me what you've got. And the Obama administration's answer was, well, it's not done yet. The curriculum's not finished yet. So, we're still working on it. And the school said, oh, okay, well, like when it's done, then come let us know, then let's have this conversation. Like, it feels premature. Like, when the curriculum's done, then come, let's talk. And Obama's administration said, no, that's not how it works. No, we need you to say, yes, you're either in or out now. And they're like, well, we don't even know what we're in what is Common Core? We don't even know what it is. They said, it's going to be great, but we need you to either be in or out. Because if you're in, we'll give you the money right now. If you're out, you're out. So the schools were like, but we don't know what we're signing up for. And he said, this is the deal. So they signed up for it because they needed the money. And then a couple years later, they saw it. They saw the curriculum and they went, what the fuck are we supposed to do with this? 3 times 4, if you show your work, if you write 11 and then show your work how it's wrong, but you show all your work, you get partial credit for it. This is crazy, right? So this was the formation of Common Core. And you gotta read the quotes in the Octopus book. It's like, they're so stupid that you read it and you're like, oh my God. I wish I had it in front of me, but the guy's like, picture, like they're talking about the conception of Common Core. He's like, picture a cocktail napkin. Picture writings on the cocktail napkin. Picture scribbling on the cocktail napkin. That was better than what we had going into this. And you're like, holy shit, man, you're supposed to shut the fuck up about that. You're not supposed to tell everyone that you didn't know what you were doing when you signed up, when you started this thing. You're telling people that are drawing ideas on cocktail napkins were way ahead of you. Like, maybe don't say that to the press. That's what you get. You get Common Core. So what is that doing? What's that doing to the intellectual horsepower of these kids? It's throwing a big monkey wrench in there. These kids are being taught incorrect ways of calculating math. And then I guess, really, am I surprised that 7% of 3rd and 8th graders in Baltimore are proficient in math and 93% were not? If all you know is Common Core, I don't even know how much of this is to blame the kids. Because if all you know about counting, multiplying, dividing is Common Core math, then you really don't know anything. And again, these kids that learn this form of math where 3 times 4 does equal 11 in this universe, as long as you can bullshit your way through it, then they go on to become engineers. And so what? We're supposed to drive across the bridges that are built by guys that were specialized in Common Core math? No, thank you. I don't want that. I don't want woke math. The point of math is that you're supposed to find some certainty. It's not supposed to be like a gray area. It's math. There's the answer, or you got it right or you got it wrong. Not, well, let me explain myself here. And look, in conjunction with the introduction of mind scrambling mathematics curriculums and verbal, like Common Core, let's not gloss over the fact that the libraries were taken over as well. And now you've got My Two Daddies in there. If your kid wants to go in the 4th grade and check out a book from the library, maybe do a book report, may I suggest My Two Daddies? Go explain that one to them. Have fun. Have fun, parents. That is, if you can find the books, because they're removing them. I mean, according to Washington, they're just about to get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Better check that out in your local library while you can, because it's just about to get thrown into the pile and burned with the rest of the other thought crime books. You've got assemblies that they're holding at schools that are talking about transgenderism and talking about, in tranny story time and all this stuff. And you watch this and you go, God, I mean, it's bad enough that you're not teaching them math and English and reading and writing and all of these things. It's bad enough that you're not teaching them what they do need to know. You are then on top of intentionally teaching them shit that they don't need to know, or that's not age appropriate, or that is not from a statistical standpoint, not that you'd be able to calculate statistics at this point, but 0.7% of the population being trans or identifying as trans, that is not a majority. I hate to break it to you. That is not the sort of percentages that you need to remake society and add third bathrooms to all the schools in California over. You don't. Even if you're just a cold-hearted politician, make the calculation. Look at that group. Will that group affect you in the elections? No, they will not. So don't give a fuck about them. Especially don't go and trying to remake society in order to make them happy. First of all, you'll never make them happy. We've seen this. There is no finish line to the alphabet mafia. They will always hold something over your head. They will always demand something else. The best and only strategy for dealing with them is immediately tell them to go fuck off and never back down from that position. In fact, go over the top and tell them where they can fuck off to. And be very clear and give them a map if you must. But do not negotiate with these terrorists because there's no finish line. Okay. And if you allow them control, they will turn your schools into Marxist indoctrination camps, which is exactly what's going on. And it's not me watching Fox News or something like that and getting, no. I see the videos. I follow libs of TikTok on Twitter. I know what's going on. I see this stuff is happening. You teachers, let me remind you, your kids do not need to know about your personal life, your sex life, anything, your political affiliation, your religious affiliation. It clouds up everything. You know what I mean? Like you just stay away from it. Just as a point of strategy, stay away from it. Nothing good comes from it, but they just can't seem to get that through their heads. And I think that part of this is that the education system works as a wedge to separate children from parents. You know what I mean? It physically removes them from the home each morning while also functioning as a sort of feedback loop of indoctrination and repetition. And, I think if you put like a stopwatch on your kid, I think in some cases the kid might spend more time during the day with the teacher than with the parent. If the parent's working late and comes home and is only there to, hey, I'll, tuck you into bed. And you know what I mean? Like from just a minutes and hours standpoint, the teacher might actually spend more time with the kids. So you have to be very careful about this because this is an opportunity for them to fill your kids' heads with nonsense. And that's what we've been doing. They don't want critical thinkers. I mean, the system doesn't. The establishment, the deep state, however you want to define it. It's their plans become harder for them when you've got critical thinkers. It just works better when the people don't ask questions. You know that. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. It's just common sense. So again, if you're getting a free education from the government, you get what you pay for, right? So like if your expectations are, I'm going to get a fantastic education here at this beautiful government school in Baltimore, you need to lower your expectations. You're going to get just the bare minimum, just enough. And in the case of Baltimore, not even enough, right? They want you focused on gender studies and not civics. They don't want you to understand how the government works. They don't want you to understand how money works. They don't want you to understand how banking works. They don't want you to understand how credit card interest compounds. They don't want you to know that, because if you know that, you'll avoid these rather obvious traps. And their buddies own those traps at the banks and the credit card companies. I mean, who do you think Joe Biden is in a huge hurry to make it more difficult for kids to get credit cards? Because credit cards will ruin you, right? Do you think Joe Biden has a vested interest in making sure that young kids get access to credit cards, or that the interest rates are reduced for kids because they don't really understand what they're doing? Do you think he cares about that when he spent 4 decades with the number one contributors to his political campaigns, the credit card companies that operate in Delaware? You see, they don't want Joe Biden to educate you about how dangerous credit cards work, because if you knew that, then it would impact their business. So the best thing they can do, if you're the credit card companies, is buy yourself a soulless politician like Joe Biden and they bought him. Don't kid yourself. And use him his entire career to make sure that the education system doesn't get any better, to make sure that that banking regulations don't go against them, to make sure that crypto doesn't come in and screw them up, to make sure anything doesn't get in the way of their grift that they've got. Because if you run credit card companies, you're making a lot of money. Just stupid amounts of money. So speaking of credit cards, when you get to college as a freshman, you find these booths set up. Hey, would you like to apply for a free credit card? You're pre-approved just by being a student here. And you're like, oh shit, okay. And here's that credit card. And there's a student bookstore. You got to get your books, right? You know, you got to get them for next semester. And so you do that. And then you get a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and whatever. And then you go out and go to the movies Friday night and put it on your credit card. And next thing you know, you come out of college, not just with student loan debt, but with credit card debt as well. It used to be that you would go to a college or a university to get an education. You know, what a novel idea. But now what you're getting is an indoctrination. Because if I recall correctly, when I went to school, and I know it was a long time ago, but I started college in fall of 1990. Okay. There was no wokeness. There were no microaggressions. There were no safe spaces. There were no cell phones, and there were no email addresses and websites. So I was in the last class to graduate from college that didn't have an email address. That seems crazy now, right? To be able to do that, to tell some kid, like, you're going to go to college, but here's the trick. You don't get to use email. They'd be like, what? That is so unfair. Well, that's how we had to do it. Us old ass people. And you know, I was not coddled through school. I was not, nobody bent over backwards to give me anything at this school. You know what I mean? I had to bust my ass to get what I got there, to the grades that I got. And it was a tough school. It's a top 25 university in the country. So it wasn't when I was there, but it is now. So I get to say that, which is kind of the nice benefit of it. But it was definitely hard. You know, it was a hard school. And I appreciate that. You know why? Because what it taught me when I graduated, when I got that piece of paper that in retrospect means nothing, but at the time, really what it was a stamp of approval that said, you can commit to something and get it finished, right? And that tells an employer something. It doesn't even really matter what your score is so much, what your GPA is. It's more like you decided you were going to go do this, and you knew it was going to take X number of years and this much money and this much time and effort and hard work, and you did it. You said you were going to do it, and you did it. You might be a fit for my company to come work for my company, right? So that's kind of the weeder mechanism, right? That is sort of like, are you a college dropout? Well, I mean, and it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. I mean, far from it. But employers are allowed to maybe speculate that you're just not somebody that finishes what they start, right? It might not be the case for you, but it's reasonable for them to have at least that as a question, right? A consideration. So in some cases, like, the degree is only just a validation that you can finish the task, right? That's the extent of it. Because I'll be honest, very few things that are in my life that I deal with is something that I look back and I recall specifically learning that in college. I don't know, maybe it compounds on itself, but I would, in retrospect, I'd do things differently. I certainly would do things differently with regard to that. And I think that the devices that kids have, and I think the social media that kids have at the university and college system, we're sort of moving on from high school now to focus, you know, on colleges and universities specifically. I think social media and like cell phones and everything, I think it's bad for those kids. I think it screws them up and makes them a little bit crazy. I mean, because college is like a crazy time anyway, and I think it adds an extra layer of complications for it. Maybe crazy is not the right word, but it just makes everything a little bit more difficult. Everything you say is there, recorded, you know, in text, on a social media post, in a video that your friends, you know, at least in my case, like, we didn't carry video cameras around with us wherever we went. So the shit that we did or got into, you had to really want to film it, you know. Nowadays, everybody's got video cameras in their pocket. So it's all there. I think that this is a dangerous time for people, you know. But these schools, these universities and colleges are really letting the kids down, because their prime goal should be to prepare them for the real world, right? Instead, what they're doing is saying, no, it's totally fine if William Thomas, the 453rd ranked men's swimmer at University of Pennsylvania, transitions and becomes Leah Thomas and becomes the number 1 ranked women's swimmer, even though he's still got a dick, and shows it to the girls in the locker room. What are we doing? This is not some sort of example that you want to show the world of how evolved you are. This is bordering on criminal to allow this shit to happen. Universities used to get sued for crazy things like this, sexual assaults all the time. What are you doing? Letting this 6'6" guy in the room with the women, pretending to be LARPing like you're transgendered and that you're going to compete with the women now. This is crazy. Riley Gaines speaks out against it, and then all of a sudden they want to fit her for a tinfoil hat and a straitjacket for having the audacity to ask the questions that everyone else is asking. What is happening here? I think that a lot of the people in schools right now have unrealistic expectations about what life after college is going to provide them. If you think you're walking into a 6-figure job right out of college, you are out of your fucking mind. That is not happening. Okay. So you need to clear your head of up for failure. I think there's a lot of that going on right now. I think a lot of the mental health, air quotes, problems that people are experiencing, and that's a very vague term, of course, but I think a lot of that is self-induced. They have unrealistic expectations that will never be met, and when they don't meet them, they get depressed because of that. Well, listen, I get it, but you should have never been thinking that anyway. You set yourself up for failure by assuming, oh, I'm going to walk out of here and some ad agency is going to hire me and start me at $100,000. No, they're not. Do you know why I know that? Because I had been out of school for a couple of years and I got hired by a big ad agency at the very bottom minimum salary they would pay. And I was glad to have that job. And it was nowhere near 6 figures, I can assure you. So it's all in your attitude. I needed that job. I wanted that job. It was going to be a cool job, you know? And it was. It didn't pay well. That was the one thing about it that sucked, is that it didn't pay well. But you know what? I was solutions oriented. And I said, I bartend on the weekends anyway, so I don't need it to pay well. I just need it to be a good job. So I took it. So my attitude for that job was, this is going to be great. Whereas someone comes out of college and they're going, I'm thinking I'm going to make $100,000 and the offer is $30,000. And you go, I have $250,000 of student loans. I can't take a $30,000 a year job. Well, that's the offer. I don't know what to tell you. And you go and experience a couple of those in a row. And then you start to get realistic about where you're. And now, are you having a mental health crisis? Yeah, you probably are. But again, your fault. So the school system has messed people up. Colleges used to be places where you could freely express yourself. Free speech is gone. Comics are banned. Jordan Peterson's banned. Whoever you are, if you're just not the established voice, if you're not the I stand with Ukrainian trans midgets, you know, for Black Lives Matter, if you're not in that crew, then you're a Nazi bigot who loves Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump and you know what I mean? So they've lost the part of college that used to be cool, where it was like, you could be who you want to be. No, you can't. Not anymore. You can't. Good luck trying to be somebody who you want to be. Colleges are the least tolerant places around. So again, you can't grow in that environment. You are cooped up. You know, Yuri Bezmenov, you know, it feels like Yuri was right. It feels like the ideological subversion of the United States has created a generation of morons, you know, Common Core kids, 0.13 GPAs, graduating from high school, getting passed on through, showing that there's no negative repercussions for your lack of effort at all. You'll just be passed on to the next phase of this. You'll be a high school graduate with a 0.13 GPA. Then you can go to college. And in college, you will be told, as you're racking up mountainous amounts of debt, you'll be getting a degree in women's lit studies or 19th century Scottish female poets, and come out of school qualified for 0 jobs, taking a job at Starbucks, angry at the world for your own miscalculations, weak, totally confused. I mean, this is a lifetime of Rockefeller, Carnegie financed education into a newly woke university system. If you're a doctor or have aspirations to become a doctor, into a Rockefeller financed and started medical school system in which, again, you'll be made to feel your limitations, where an entire component of medicine is off limits to you. Quackery, holistic. Those people are nuts. They're rubbing leaves on their ass and saying that they're healed of stuff. Those people are crazy. The only solution is in a pill. So we've got an entire indoctrination center system set up from the minute we get into the school system till the day you get out. You have to ask yourself, why is it that the oligarchs financed and created the schooling systems? Why did David Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie give a shit about schools? Do you think it's because they wanted you to be as smart as possible so that you could compete with them in their monopolies? No. Talk about controlled opposition. The education system is the epitome of controlled opposition. They are controlling you. If you seek to oppose them, just understand you will be limited by your education that they decided you should have, and only that education that is approved by them. Just enough to work the machines, baby. Hey, if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. You can connect with me through the website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com, or you can follow me on Twitter @macroaggressions. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you again soon.